Hello and welcome to Bible Study with Alice, and today we're on day 23, Proverbs 23 of our daily proverb reading. We're reading from the ESV translation, but you're more than welcome to join us from a different translation. As you can see, we are on Proverbs 23. These videos are filmed in real time. Today's date is the 23rd of April 25 and it's a Wednesday. You can find the previous 22 Proverbs in the playlist below. There is a disclaimer as usual, and that is one that these videos are unedited and also probably stubborn my wording. Let's get started. When you sit down to eat with a ruler, observe carefully what is before you and put a knife to your throat if you are given to appetite. But do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive foods. Do not toil to acquire wealth. Be discerning enough to detest. I can't even say the word. Do not toil to acquire wealth. Be discerning enough to detest. When your eyes light on it, it's gone, for suddenly it sprouts wings, flying like an eagle towards heaven. 6. Do not eat bread of man who is stingy. Do not desire delicacies, for he is like one who is inward calculating. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. You will vomit up the morsels that you have eaten, and will waste your pleasant words. Do not speak in the hearing of a fool, for he will despise good sense of your words. Do not move an ancient landmark or enter the field of the fatherless, for their Redeemer is strong. He will plead their cause against you. Apply your heart to instruction and your ear to words of knowledge. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. If you strike him with a rod, you will save his soul from Sheol. My son, if your heart is wise, my heart too will be glad. 16. My inmost being will exult when your lips speak what is right. Let not your hearts envy sinners. Be continuing. But 17. Let not your heart envy sinners, but continue in the fear of the Lord all the day. Surely there is a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Hear, my son, and be wise, and direct your heart in the way. Be not among the drunkards, or among the gluttonous eaters of meat. For the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them with rags. 22. Listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Buy truth and do not sell it. Buy wisdom, instruction, and understanding. 24. The father of the righteous is greatly rejoiced. He who father a wise son will be glad in him. Let your father and your mother be glad. Let her who bore you rejoice. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes observe my ways. For a prostitute is a deep pit, and an adulteress is a narrow realm. She lies in wait like a robber, and increase the traitors among mankind. 29. Who has woe, who has sorrow, who has strife, who has complaining, who has wounds without cause, who has redness of eyes? Those who tarry long over wine, those who try mixed wine. Do not look at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly. In the end it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart utter perverse things. 34. You will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies on the top of a mast. They struck me, you will say, but I was not hurt. They beat me, but I did not feel it. When shall I awake? I must have another drink. So that is Proverbs 23 complete. I do apologise, there's a few times I did stumble. It's usually a regular occurrence by now. I think we've kind of established I just stumble all over the place. So with Proverbs 23, now I put a question mark because of this particular reason. I'm going to explain it, so don't worry, I'm not going to tell you. So Historians and scholars don't exactly know who the author was for Proverbs 23, but what they do know, though, that it was written during King Solomon's reign. So they don't know if it was King Solomon or if it was another person. And if it was another person, they don't know who that other person would have been. So that's why I put the question mark. So this particular proverb was written during King Solomon's reign, but it might not have been King Solomon who wrote it. So that's why there's a question mark there. So it's a mixture of practical and spiritual wisdom, primarily focusing on responsible behaviour, self-control and the importance of wisdom. Now, it's obviously going to have a bit of both with practical and spiritual wisdom, because to have practical wisdom is very important, but sometimes it's also important to have spiritual wisdom too, and have that spiritual awareness of what's going on. And to be able to have that spiritual awareness, you do need to then have spiritual wisdom. With responsible behaviour and self-control, now this is one of those where you need to have self-control for responsible behaviour, you need responsible behaviour to have self-control. Now I know you'll be thinking, Alice, surely self-control can also work if you have reckless behaviour. Yes, it does. I hadn't got to that part. Don't worry, I hadn't got to that part. I know, but I knew that would probably come up. So, to have responsible behaviour, you need to have self-control. To have reckless behaviour, you need self-control. Self-control is the main component here, and that is the bit that obviously we need to kind of have that spiritual and practical wisdom on to help us with our self-control, because our self-control is what makes or break it, basically. It is what's going to make or break us, especially when it comes to practical and spiritual wisdom. Now I know that you could say, but there are people who, have self-control and make really disastrous decisions. Yes, I know they do, but that's because that's their own self-control. That is what, they're controlling their self there, and by controlling their self, they're controlling their behaviour, they're controlling how their behaviour is going to be perceived by us, everybody else, or perceived by them. And us being the outsider looking in on their disastrous behaviour, it's going to obviously not look good, because them being disastrous is not going to work out for them in their in the outcome of that. So to have self-control and have responsible behaviour, you need to have that control to be able to be responsible for your own actions, to be able to look and act in a particular way that we need to behave and act in. And having that practical and spiritual wisdom can help us to understand our way of doing our self-control, and how we then become more mindful of how the self-control aspect works. And then once we are able to understand our self-control, then we're able to understand everything else. And it also works. That also then works with the responsible behaviour, because once you become aware that your behaviour is being quite reckless, you then realise, actually, I need to kind of tone in a bit and work on myself to then be able to become less of that reckless behaviour, basically. And obviously it all comes back to the importance of wisdom. So regardless of it, it's the wisdom and the understanding of the wisdom is you need to be able to understand yourself, to be able to understand how you perceive yourself to be, and how you are then better managed in the world. Because obviously we don't all want to be reckless and disastrous and stuff, but if we have an understanding of how we behave in a way, then we know at least where we can start with it. And because obviously when this was written, that when the Proverbs were written, in particular this particular proverb, it was written for those young men, and it's to inform them that they need to have self-control and be able to, you know, gain that wisdom and knowledge by having that self-control to then behave in a particular way. Because if they're not behaving in that particular way, then obviously they need to work on themselves to be able to do so. So that's basically what that means. So that is Proverb 23 complete. So I'm writing the day and the date down here. I'll put my pen on. So day 23. And then I'll write it across here. A bit weird, I know, but it works well for me, so it's fine. So that is Proverb 23 complete. Tomorrow we'll be doing Proverb 24. Thank you for watching. Please like my content, please subscribe to my channel, and please turn on the notification bell so you get notified of content like this that gets uploaded to the channel. Thank you and goodbye.